listeners, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
It's Monday night at 9 p.m. and time for Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers. Dr. Ricky Siegel is a certified sex therapist, educator, and supervisor, and his brother Larry Siegel is a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator. The Siegel brothers are here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality, but we're unsure who to ask, including questions you didn't even know you had. They will also welcome guests from around the globe to talk about a wide variety of topics and issues within the fascinating world of sexuality. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to Sex Talk.
Good evening and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. My name is Dr. Richard Siegel. I'm a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
On a hot mic.
Yeah, very hot mic.
And my awesome big brother.
Still my favorite role.
And we are very happy this evening to be joined by a repeat guest, our dear friend.
Yes, our returning champion.
Yes. And welcome to our new time slot on Fridays at 7. I know the intro said Monday. We'll change that ASAP. We are thrilled to be joining you on the radio in South Florida. Thanks to our wonderful producer, Freddie, and AM2 TV Productions. We're on a whole bunch of news stations now. We've added some FM and AM stations, broadening our reach. We're also live streaming on Facebook.
Yes.
And
So
on
Instagram.
Michelle's Instagram feed.
that's right. Hello to everybody joining us.
As well. And you may feel free, please, to join the conversation and give us a call here in the studio. That call-in number is
565.
1470. We're in a new studio here.
Yes, we are.
Incredibly wonderful little theater place in East Boca, and it's incredible what Freddie and Don are doing with the place. Studios all around, wonderful artist gallery surroundings, and we are thrilled to be here live. If you're on Facebook, hello, thank you for joining us. Please hit that like and share button, because it's always a good time for Sex Talk.
It is.
And with our wonderful guest, Michelle, we have this incredible topic tonight.
So happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah,
It's so great to have you back. It really is.
yeah. And I was away last week visiting my wonderful daughter in Portland. Thank you for carrying the load. And I'm sorry, you got bumped, as they say in TV parlance.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, we had
really
a little...
I'm glad that I'm back and to have you return with us. And when Larry told me this topic that we came up with for tonight, conscious sexuality.
Oh, that's my favorite topic.
Right? I got to just so you know the craziness that goes on in my head. My first thought was like, well, compared to what? Unconscious sexuality? That's rape, right? And then I thought a little bit more about it and thought, well, I remember this book from way, way back when we, Larry and I, if I can immodestly say, were part of blazing a trail on sexuality issues in chemical dependency and
we were the
addiction,
first.
especially in treatment arenas. So there was a book years ago called Having Sex While Conscious, Sexuality and Sobriety, right? And I thought that made sense too. But then, the thought kept rolling and I thought, yeah, unconscious sex, yeah, people are having unconscious sex every day.
Yeah, and
right?
almost most people.
Sex that's robotic and obligatory.
That's right.
Anytime anybody is in their head thinking about anything else, they're not having conscious sex. So this actually ends up being kind of a rarity, doesn't it?
We do a lot of things unconsciously.
Yeah.
So
And how many people, again, when they are in a sexual situation, shut down, turn off, disconnect. So even though there are people that may be having a lot of sexual activity, they may be doing a lot of things sexually, they're not really conscious. They're not really present.
I mean, I know because some things are coming up as you're talking about what my clients say, which, like, for example, I've had a woman tell me she would be asleep while her husband would just come in later. And then another one was saying how she was on the phone texting and her husband was getting in the way. She wanted to finish her text.
Now, like I was saying before, we have a term for that. It's called rape.
Right. Well, I mean, somebody is unconscious.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But
And you know what? It's amazing. All these years, it's amazing to me how many guys, especially married guys, are shocked and surprised to find out that they can't do that.
right.
They can't just penetrate their partner who happens to be asleep. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
That you don't think that's not a consent issue, and because you're married, that just gives you license?
Yeah,
Right.
well, that's become
Blanket consent.
a real red flag warning of a side effect of Ambien.
Oh well.
You know, that
Yeah.
all of these
know
women
who
in
to
particular
blame.
complaining, you know, as a side effect, taking this sleeping pill that puts them into this very different state of consciousness, not really asleep, not really awake, but
not
they're
conscious.
having sleep sex. No, they're not conscious.
Right.
Right.
You mean they're
But
both
that,
taking
that one
Ambien?
particular woman
In many
gave,
cases, yeah. But,
gave
you know,
her
especially
husband the
guy.
permission that he could do whatever. She just was tired and not
Right.
interested.
So
you
if
know,
someone's like
it's
on
amazing.
the phone,
Yeah.
like, yeah, get it over with.
But that happens a lot, I think, and we
Sure.
just
Well,
don't
yeah,
talk
but
about
I've
it.
been
you
saying
know.
for years, the pattern, and working with couples in my practice, the pattern that couples have to avoid to, you know, proverbially a boy turning into their parents is when sex finished, you know, the honeymoon phase.
Caller, Zach.
Right? Obviously. But when it goes from routine to obligatory to perfunctory,
Right.
it's only a matter of time before resentment.
Oh, absolutely.
Then it's like,
And shutting down.
Get it over with.
Right. So, you know, this term has been used in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
Okay. The term has been, conscious sex has been used in a lot of different ways. And, you know, looking from even our perspective, we have a background. Our background is clinical. Our background is academic. Our background is social. So we can talk about things like mindfulness. We can talk about things like being present. But I think when it comes to really getting to the core and to the essence of what we mean by conscious sex, I think this is, at least for me, I would say it's a little beyond what I would say my real ability to articulate would be. So to start us off with this, I mean, we're talking about conscious sex, right?
Before we do, let's see what this caller has on.
Oh,
their
we have a
mind.
call.
we
I'm
have
sorry,
a
I didn't
caller.
realize that.
Yes. Who is it? Jake,
Hello.
did you say? Zach.
Zach,
Hey, Zach.
Zach, hey, thanks for calling
What's
in.
on your mind?
how you doing? Well, I have a question. I am currently in a relationship, and I was wondering how should I go about a situation where my partner wants to do an open relationship?
Yes, and I take it from the question that you don't.
Well, I mean, I'm open to different things, but this seems a little bit out of my range.
Sure. You know, I think that's a topic for a whole other show,
It really is.
and one that I promise you we'll have soon. But there's a
Okay.
lot to get into with how couples can negotiate.
Yeah,
It's one of those things that seems trendy. You know, everything old is new again, and
No doubt.
when we talk about well, let me just start by saying this. There's two things that couples often do to kind of try and save the marriage, which are the worst ideas ever. One of them is having a kid, and the other is, quote, opening up the marriage, right? So a relationship has to be on really rock-solid ground
Yeah, exactly.
before that discussion happens about
If-
what it means to open the
Right.
marriage.
If
And
it's
then-
already shaky, it'll make that stuff will make it much shakier.
and then nowadays, there's a dozen different things that people mean when they say opening up, right? Are we talking swinging or partner swapping or don't ask, don't tell kind of relationships or other partners involved, not
Right.
involved? So there's a lot of negotiation there, and I promise you we will have that discussion on a future show. So
Right.
thank you for listening, and please call in
Yes.
again when we do.
And let me also say, in the meantime, Zach, I think one of the things that would probably be very helpful is you need to really sort of sit with that idea and really kind of determine what an open relationship means to you. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What do you see has to go into that? And then talk with your wife about what it means to her, and at least start having a discussion about what you each mean, where you're each coming from when you're talking about an open relationship. Because like what Ricky said, we often, and this is a big issue in relationships, we often use the same words, but we're often not on the same page.
Yeah.
So at least begin having a dialogue. It's not something that you're going to say, you want to do it, okay, and it's done. You really need to, as Ricky said, negotiate. So start by talking about what you're
For real,
talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah. I think,
I'm
after
just trying to keep it
decades
100
of,
with her,
I'm sorry, Zach?
No, I'm just trying to keep it, like 100 with everybody involved.
Right.
Like her, my parents.
Right.
Right.
And what do you need out of it? Hear what she needs and what she wants to get out of it, and sort of start with that.
After decades of the psychiatric and psychological communities making diseases out of kinks and paraphilias and fetishes, I think everybody has a lot to learn from kinky people when it comes
absolutely.
to having conscious presence, understood,
Yeah, my wife
negotiated,
so
communicated
And
sex.
agreed upon. Yeah.
Right, consent. Nobody knows better consent and
That's right.
boundary setting and understanding what's going to happen and what's not
Mm-hmm.
than kinky
Correct.
people.
Yep, absolutely.
So we were about
So-
to get into this kind of non-clinical idea of conscious sexuality and conscious sex.
Well, I would love to share that it is heart connected. Our bodies, a lot of times, are what we're having sex with, and we're not even in our bodies. And a lot of us are in a lot of pain, actually, and using sex is just like a drug, to feel good. And so conscious sex is when you're bringing your whole being into that experience. And I truly believe that this is how we were designed to be. So when we have those experiences, when we're fully present and available and vulnerable and allowing the aliveness in us to actually be flowing through us, a lot of it has to do with conscious breathing, allowing your body to be present with your mind. And it's not about having expectations. It's not about performing. It's a very organic and natural heart connected because you're consciously breathing. And by that I mean expanding. And so I think of Tantra practices where the person is completely available and available to themselves, and therefore they feel this energetic, ecstatic flow. And imagine if anybody's ever felt in the flow when you're playing a sport, for example, or you suspend time. There's no time. It's just magical. That is the vibe of conscious sex when I speak about it.
And and I like that, especially that last point, because there's so many times that when people do find themselves connected, and especially like after a powerful and often mutual orgasm, people will often describe that eternal moment, that quote afterglow part where people's like it seems like we were lying there for hours, right? And it may just be a minute or two, but that complete loss of time, that kind of letting go of all of that stuff we're keeping track of and keeping tabs on, that's all around us. People tend to be so vigilant about their surroundings and what they're doing and what they look like, and we often talk as therapists about spectatoring, people leaving their body to sort of go outside, watch themselves, and judge and evaluate. And that rarely ends up well.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing. Over the past 15 or so years, mindfulness has made its way into the larger therapy field, and particularly sex therapy. And right from the get-go, I had that same concern. Where's the line between mindfulness and spectatoring, especially for highly anxious people who, guys who are in their head worrying about what their penis is doing or not doing, right? And it comes down to that, like you're saying, it's hard to even find the language, but conscious mindfulness and awareness without judgment or criticism.
Yes, acceptance.
Presence.
Yeah,
Acceptance.
and where the intention is connection. The intention. So it's not about I have to make you come. It's not about that. It's about I'm curious. We're just exploring and feeling and flowing together.
Next one, you got to go to break.
And that makes for anything to be more fun.
Okay, we're going to go to a break, and we'll come right back. Stay tuned.
Lee of Boca Raton Acupuncture Clinic with the PhD
Unfortunately,
in
the FCC
neuroscience.
does not care about your
Practice in
intentions.
acupuncture helps hormone balancing, total relaxation, diabetes,
Hi, guys.
and inflammation. For additional questions or to schedule a free consultation, call Boca Raton Acupuncture Clinic at 617-817-1910. Acupuncture and Chinese herbs are very effective in treating many ailments and diseases and have been used for thousands of years in China. Call today for your free consultation at 617-817-1910.
You're listening to Sex Talk with Dr. Richard Siegel, a certified sex therapist and sexuality educator. So, welcome back to Sex Talk.
We are back. Thank you for joining us on Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers, and we're here with one of our A-list guests.
Yes, indeed.
The wonderful Michelle Alba,
Thank you.
talking about conscious sexuality, having conscious sex, being present. I love that idea of a heart connection.
Before you get your heart on, get your heart on.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I can't use that either. Sorry. Oops.
Okay.
Never mind.
Never
So, right, now, you'd say something.
We're going to get banned.
Healing Moments Wellness Boutique.
Okay, back to back like that. We're going to be a couple minutes,
Scientific
Freddie.
and ancient therapies to relieve physical, emotional, and psychological distress. Through the power of touch, coaching, and meditation, clients experience pain relief, relaxation, healing, and detoxification. Contact Healing Moments Wellness Boutique at 561-931-2187 and experience
now we
Boca
can say
Raton's
you can
Healing
you can
Unit.
say a guy gets hard.
Enjoy the benefits of an individualized treatment plan to help find your feelings of peace, complete balance, and wellness. Call
No,
Healing
not
Moments
hard
today
on, but a guy can get hard.
931-2187 and be rejuvenated. Does your business
Larry's
need
right.
to be
You can
up?
say hard. You
A
can't
new
say
way
hard
to
on.
grow
Yeah,
your
okay.
business. Using a simple
So you talk
keyword,
about a guy
drive
getting hard,
customers
what
right
it
to
takes to
you
get hard.
with just a click.
Right? And if it doesn't work, he's got a hard off.
Personalized digital business card within seconds, with all your contact information in
Why
one
is his
place,
cock okay, but it's not going to...
including a gallery of photos, videos, and clear call to action that drives sales. Promote your products and services, or share a hot new listing with custom event pages and RSVP form, boosting
Okay, back
qualified
after this
leads.
one.
Special offers and promotions are directly sent to your potential customers' phones with text campaigns, increasing foot traffic and creating a loyal following. Let MobiPop drive your marketing campaign.
Come with your heart on.
Focus on your business. Let MobiPop focus on growing it.
You're listening to Sex Talk with Dr. Richard Siegel, a certified sex therapist and sexuality educator. So, welcome back to Sex Talk.
And we're back. Sorry about the little pause. Yes.
All right. So as we were before we left, we started to. I wanted to ask you about. You were talking a little bit earlier about intention. Now we know that for a lot of people, shutting down, disconnecting, right, all of those things that we're looking to try to help people avoid, that is their intention. We know that people will often use, or at least try to use, sex and intimate encounters as a medicator, as a drug. So what can you, and again, I know this is something that in working with people, it's a process, and you know, it's not an easy, you know, elevator pitch kind of thing. But what would be your sort of elevator pitch, you know, to a quick and easy thing that we can, you know, get people to start thinking about to change that intention and allow themselves to be vulnerable?
Well, first and foremost, I would be grateful of whatever's happening. So for people to just appreciate wherever they're at on their journey and to ask themselves, to believe that they're worthy of living an amazing, fulfilling, ecstatic sexual life. Because a lot of us are just not even aware that we could even have something more connected. So opening up that, what would it feel like for me to bring more of myself into my own life, and seeing the value of that each person is meant to be integrated. We're meant to live that way, and we thrive when we live that way, and it's healthy for us. And so for me, for example, I did live disconnected, very much so, because my first sexual experience was non-consensual, and I survived that painful experience by disconnecting. So it's important for us to have a lot of compassion and to not shame ourselves, which is what I did. I did shame myself. I just didn't know any better. But eventually I felt not happy. And so the first thing I think is just to ask yourself, would I like to have a more fulfilling life, and to know that you're worthy of that. And definitely get in touch with us because we can offer a lot of support. And that you can change your life. You can transform your life just like I have. I mean, I used to feel very frozen, and now I feel juicy, like a mango.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Like so many things typical of America, nowhere else, no one else is more health obsessed and yet unhealthy, right? And I would venture to guess that no one or few are more sex obsessed and yet more sexually unhealthy.
Oh, well, I mean, again, that's part of that whole package.
Right.
Just even with the whole health and healthcare thing, not only are we the most obsessed with it and get the least amount for it, but we spend the most money. I think compared to the next 5 countries put together, we have one of the lowest health outcomes of
Right.
any country in the world.
Right.
So
I mean,
spend a lot more.
we're not
and get
embarrassed. We're not embarrassed that Cuba has a 10 times better healthcare system than we do. Right?
Kazakhstan.
I don't want to. I'm going to get it wrong. It's either Argentina or Venezuela. Probably Argentina, but I heard this at a conference and it blew my mind. There are 10 sexual health clinics in hospitals throughout the country. I don't think there's a single one in the United States, a single hospital that has a dedicated sexual health clinic associated with it.
No, I don't think so. Well, again,
Right.
the paucity
What
medical schools
happened?
that teach this.
What happened to the greatest country in the world?
Well,
Why are we?
We like to say it.
Well, we are in so many ways, but when it comes to sexuality and sexual health, we are certainly not. And I think unconscious sex is the norm rather than the exception.
Well, that's the reason why I created Conscious Sex 101. And if people want to go to conscioussex101.com, you can watch a video there where I explain beautifully what conscious sex is. And a part of my mission is to educate and empower people, and also create community, and for us to just talk about sex like we're doing right now, because I think a lot of us are so ashamed, and we shame ourselves, and we're hard on ourselves, and so many of us don't even know what we're doing in bed. And I know this because, as teenagers, where did we learn how to be masterful in our sexuality? And I mean, I was raised religiously, and I shamed myself because I let a teenager have his way with me, and it weighed my whole life. I thought it was damaged goods, and there's people that reach out to me who watch my YouTube videos, and they say, I'm 62 years old, and I really want to find love. And I heard one of your videos, and you were talking about what happened to you, and I'm so inspired to how we could change. And so I think that's really important, is for people to realize that you're so dynamic, you're a miracle, you're magical, and you can have your dream life. You can experience bliss in your body. It doesn't matter how many years you've been in pain or how many years you've been suffering. Your body is designed for pleasure. And so it actually requires less energy for us to run on love and pleasure than it does on chronic stress. So the body is actually so ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our many years working as sexuality educators, I think, after I inherited Larry's old job when he had moved on, I think we both, if I could speak for us both, went in with this mindset that the more religious someone is, the more they're going to hate our guts before we even show up, right? And that sex ed and religion just couldn't be further apart. Now, unfortunately, there are way too many instances where that was affirmed, right? Where we were called all kinds of horrible things and doors slammed. But there were also many, many experiences where communities of faith, and particularly clergy, recognized that there is a spiritual component to sexuality, and that sexuality is spiritual. And we're open to this, this reality that being our truly genuine selves, not this Jekyll and Hyde disconnect where our sexual self is something that we are ashamed of. We gotta go.
We gotta go. Unfortunately,
That's our time.
So,
Thank you for having me.
and how can somebody get a hold of you?
Just go to michellealva.com and conscioussex101.com. And my YouTube channel is Michelle Alva TV. And I have this video I just put out, how sex is not sinful. And I'd love to share that with you. Thank you for having
See
me.
you next Friday
Lots of
on
love.
Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers.
Bye.
You've been listening to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us every Monday night at 9 p.m. on WNN, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. Or watch live streaming video at AMP2 TV Productions on Facebook, or look for the shows on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again next week.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Healing Moments Wellness Boutique specializes in integrating scientific and ancient therapies to relieve physical, emotional, and psychological